What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the Magic Dads podcast. I am ruggedly joined here today by Pinty Het and special guest Luke Sheeley. What's up, dudes?
Hey everybody, happy to be here.
Luke looking way better than either of us.
Absolutely. Luke
I thought this was a professional thing, man. I just wanted to compare.
Very dapper. No, he just has to be better than us. That's okay, though.
That is fair. Yeah,
I concede.
Can't let it go. Oh my goodness.
So how's it going?
Doing all right. Having a good night. How about you guys?
Yeah, good.
Kids are in bed, living the dream.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess if you clicked on the video, you probably know why you're here. But today we're going to be talking about Seeker Walk, and I think that Luke is probably the expert on this topic, right?
At least locally.
I mean, I'm always going to be hesitant to call myself an expert on anything because I'm still going to be wrong sometimes. But I think
that's just human nature.
I think I've earned it. I think I've earned the right to have some opinions on the deck and some thoughts.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
So you won one of the Lawnlander Championship qualifiers with Seeker Walk in 2023. That's how you got your qualification for the championship at the end of the year.
Yes.
And you were also the winner of the Maple Cup last week with Seeker Walk.
How long have you been on this deck?
A league where you can play a different deck every week, and Luke plays the same deck.
Well,
you can, but I only have the one. I've been on Seeker Walk. Let's see. So my first deck was Allurin.
Yep. I remember that.
I'm trying to remember when the first. It was before Lawnlander, so it was in 2022, and I think I played Allurin for 2 tournaments, and then I switched.
August and November.
Yeah.
Okay, I might have done. So I might have been on Seeker Walk in the first one of last year, or I might have still been on Allurin. I don't remember for sure, but it's been about a year.
Yeah. I remember the first tournament you played Allurin, and I think you were frustrated with some of the bad cards in the deck.
Yes. So once I got a little more used to the format and kind of how games played out and the general power level of what you needed to be doing, there were just cards in the deck that I would draw and think, what am I doing here? Like I draw
right.
I think of what it's called and be like, maybe on turn 7 I can get some value out of this.
Yeah.
You just draw certain cards and they'd be these super dead. And in order to facilitate the combo, you had to play cards like the finisher was bouncing, I think it's called Parasitic Strix with Cavern Harpy.
Correct.
Back and forth. And, those cards are just really bad on their own.
Yeah.
It's simpler now. We have the legendary creature from the D&D set.
Yep.
Who basically ventures into a dungeon and bounces himself.
Asarak.
Yeah, Asarak. That was before your.
I wasn't even playing that though, so I knew you could do that with Allurin, but you don't have a good way of tutoring it. So you can the way the deck worked was you would. I think it was still a spell seeker. It was definitely still a spell seeker line, but you had to spell seeker to get Ephemerate, to get Neoform, and then rebound the Ephemerate and get Diabolic Tutor. Then you would Neoform the Spellseeker into Academy Rector, and then you would Diabolic into Academy Rector, put the Allurin on the field, and then go Tutor for Imperial Recruiter or Recruit to the Guard or whatever.
And that's how you start the chain.
Yeah, that's how you start the
chain.
It's
a lot of bad cards you just named all in the row.
Exactly. So you could do that and just get Asarak instead of Imperial Recruiter or Recruiter to the Guard, but then if you just have, I think it's just Asarak isn't good to draw on its own,
right?
And if you have interaction for it, you're gonna lose. What'd you say?
So you've played the deck for over a year.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea of how many games exactly you've played?
Oh, that's a good question. Been to a lot of FNMs. I played it at all.
It's got to be a lot.
It's probably a couple hundred.
Yeah, you're triple digits easy.
Yeah.
You got to be. I think you might be approaching 1,000 at this point.
1,000 games is a long. That's a long time.
For someone who might not know what Seeker Walk is, Luke, I would like you to give your best
description
of what Seeker Walk is.
All right, so Seeker Walk is a clean combo deck that uses 3 cards mainly. I've got my deck here. Let me find them real quick so I can flash them up on the screen. Here's 2 of them. We just need the Spell Seeker. I guess there's a little bit more to the combo, but
Yeah.
all right. We're going to play this card called Spell Seeker. It lets you tutor, when it enters the battlefield, it lets you tutor an instant or sorcery card with mana value 2 or less out of your deck into your hand. So you're going to get this card called Ephemerate. You're going to cast Ephemerate, target the Spell Seeker, which will blink it, letting it enter the battlefield again, letting you search for another card. You're going to get this card. It's not very good, but it's 2 mana. It lets you take an extra turn. It's called Time Walk. People often
It's
refer
target
to it
player. You can make your opponent take an extra turn.
No, it's.
I'd have to check. I'm not
Oh
sure.
no,
Time
it
Walker
is
does
you.
work.
Yeah, I was thinking Time Warp.
But
better Time Walk.
So you cast Time Walk. You take an extra turn. At the beginning of that extra turn, your Ephemerate is going to rebound, and you're going to target Spellseeker again. You are then going to get any number of different cards. You can get Neoform, you can get Eladamri's Call, you can get Green Sun Zenith. It all depends on how much mana you have. You can even get Finale of Devastation if you want. I think I've ended 1 or 2 games by casting Finale of Devastation with X is 10+. And that card that you get, you're either going to Neoform your Spellseeker into a Timeless Witness, or you're going to Green Sun Zenith for an Eternal Witness or a Timeless Witness, or Eladamri's Call for one of those cards. That card is going to ETB, and what the witnesses do is let you return a card from your graveyard to your hand. You're going to get back the Ephemerate. You're going to cast the Ephemerate targeting a witness. The witness is going to enter the battlefield again, letting you pick up another card from your graveyard. You're going to pick up Time Walk, and then you're going to cast Time Walk again. Now you go to another new turn, and at the beginning of that new turn, your Ephemerate is going to rebound again, letting you target a witness. And once it resolves, the witness re-enters the battlefield, and you can pick up the Ephemerate again, Ephemerate the witness, pick up the Time Walk again, and now you have a loop of infinite turns.
You have achieved critical mass, as it were. So
I'm going to put out that
you can win however you want. I don't think I've ever had to.
notably,
I don't think my opponents have let me actually win a single time.
Most interestingly is that of those cards that you named, those are all good playable cards. If you draw them naturally, casting a Time Walk is totally just good and fine to do. Ephemerating any one of your enter the battlefield creatures, like even ephemerating like a Wall of Omens or like your Eternal Witness, you're going to get a pretty substantial amount of value off of any of that.
Oh yeah. I've had games where I had a witness and ephemerate, and that's just a loop of picking up an extra card in your graveyard every turn for 1 mana, as long as it doesn't die.
Like at worst case, it's a run in 6.
Mm-hmm.
That I mean,
right?
Yeah.
Everybody likes making land drops, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So
there was.
I think you just described 6, maybe 7 cards in the deck, and Canadian Highlander is a 100-card format. So. What else are we doing? I am going to pull Luke's deck list. This is the deck list that Luke won the Maple Cup with. Up here on the screen so that the viewers can see.
I think what's interesting is that your deck plays, and this is pretty common, your deck plays some of the silver bullets to your deck.
Like Gaven Mind Sensor?
Like Aven Mind Sensor, like Scavenging Ooze, like Deathrite Shaman, and Elesh Norn, Mother of Machines is like these are very powerful cards when they're on your side of the board. When they're on your opponent's side of the board, they are kryptonite to you.
Yes.
And you play them.
Yes. So the reason I play them is the same reason that my opponents play them is because they host certain strategies. I've won games by mind censoring people. I have won games by using Wall of Roots to cord for a Scavenging Ooze, pass to their upkeep, use the Wall of Roots again to exile a key card in their graveyard so that they couldn't combo off that turn. I've used, Deathrite Shaman to exile lands or exile, creatures that people are going to try to reanimate. And then the Elesh Norn is a card that I've gone very back and forth on of whether it should be in the deck. 5 mana is a lot. It gets bounced by Karakas. But it does really host some strategies, and if it stays on the field, I'm going to get crazy value off of it. So I originally put that in my deck back when a couple of people were playing Flash Hulk, because that is one of the only ways that you can interact with Flash Hulk with the new combo with Sam and getting Grand Abolisher at the same time. you can't, once the Polisher's there, you can't really do much. And so having the Elish Norn to stop the cat from actually is one of the ways that I was trying to combat the deck.
Yeah, I think that's a fair include. Like it's a respectable body all on its own too. Like if they don't have a Krakus or a removal spell, it's just like
it's a 4/7.
Yeah, what are they going to do?
Although,
attack through it? Has vigilance, idiot.
One time Ryan Brown had the initiative and got his Blood Boil Sorcerer up to a 7/7, and then goaded my Elish Norn into it, and that game didn't go very well for me.
No, you let him have a 7/7 Blood Boil
Elish
Sorcerer.
Norn. Okay, so the viewers can see your deck list up there on the screen now.
Oh, very good.
You've got a couple of Planeswalkers, a slurry of Mana Dorks, some like Mother of Runes type effects. You've got a few of the Evoke Elementals. Something that this deck has a lot of is tutors. And you have those in the form of creatures in addition to instants and sorceries. So you have the Fiend Artisan. You have the Recruiter.
Fauna Shaman's another one.
You have Fauna Shaman, yeah.
Yeah, a little slower, but like you only need it once.
It gets the job done. Something
Yeah.
else that your deck does really, really well is play these copy creatures. So there's a lot of really, really super powerful creatures that exist in Canadian Highlander. And I don't know how many times I've put an Atraxa into play and you just copied it with a Glasspool Mimic. And then I just hated my life.
Glasspool is the one that you can't. Glasspool only copies creatures you control.
Sure.
But the other two
more for
do just fine.
damage, yeah. I'm always terrified to put a big creature into play against you because you're just going to copy it with one of those things.
Yeah, so my second round at the Maple Cup Finals was against Jeremiah, and he went turn 1 Entomb for Tyrannax Rex, turn 2 Reanimate it, hit me twice, and then I drew Core to Calling before it was going to hit me again. I thought for a minute or two, trying to think of how could I possibly get out of this, realized that I could Cord for Phantasmal Limit, get my own Tyrannax Rex, and just block. And as long as he can't target it with anything, I'm good. Yeah. And it did end up working, and I do think I won that game.
100%. So in addition to the tutors, you also have just a ton of card draw.
Yes.
Stefan made the comment last week when I said, Luke always has it. I said, Luke always has it because Luke draws tons of cards. So he said he doesn't draw that many cards. So then the next time that me and Luke played, I counted how many cards he drew.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Over the course of 3 games, and Luke took 11 extra draw steps over the course of 2 games. It's an insane.
I'm surprised it was only that many. I'm trying to do a lot more than that.
And 6 of them were off of a Malcolm. Also,
that's a card that I'm going to point out is probably way better than anybody else expects.
Yeah, this is the Malcolm alluring. What is it? Alluring Scoundrel.
Stupid, sexy Malcolm.
Alluring Siren?
Alluring Scoundrel.
Alluring Scoundrel, yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got the Malcolm. You have Wall of Omens. That draws a card.
Not Wall of Blossoms, notably.
Ponder.
No, so I have Wall of Omens over Wall of Blossoms because of Solitude. And
sure.
You'd think, well, don't you want Wall of Blossoms for Endurance? But Endurance is only 3 mana, so I can
You're casting
that.
Yeah. Solitude is the one that's harder to cast when I need to cast it.
Double white and 5 mana.
Uro draws a card. You have Palace Jailer to take the initiative. That draws a card. Ponder, Brainstorm, Preordain.
There was a time, I think, when I was not playing Preordain and Ponder, and there was a time when I wasn't playing Get Probe, and then at a certain point I realized I'm just stupid. I should 100% be playing these cards. I think every blue deck should be playing those cards. I think 1 or 2 of them could be worth a point. Just when you have a 1-card combo in your deck, anything that makes it more likely that you draw that card should probably be in your deck. If
you notably go down the right hand path of the initiative or the Undercity,
basically draw 2.
Yeah. That's sort of your modus operandi for proceeding through the Undercity.
Yeah, if I'm going through the left side, that means I am extremely confident that you are dead next turn.
Yeah, you've got it in 2.
Sure, that makes sense.
I will Because most games, I'm not trying to win games through damage most of the time. If I can tell that my opponent is going to be super weak to that, then sometimes I will. But usually the scry is going to do more for me than putting 2 counters on my creature, which might amount to like 4 damage over the course of the game, and then hitting them for another 5. Like I'm not making up that other 11, so the left side isn't doing a lot for me.
I think you'd be more apt if we were playing more, like if there was more control in our meta, and like just having one big threat that they didn't have a response for immediately. Like against a control deck, I think you definitely want to be the beatdown, right? Like you want to have a threat that's going to get in every turn and end the game that they can't counter because you already have it in play.
I think in general, yes. I think with my deck specifically, I don't think I'm usually that weak to control, because I can basically pressure them until they run out of resources. At least that's usually the plan. I had one crazy long game against Jeremiah on blue-white control one time where he was, I think he eventually destroyed me with his resources. But usually my plan is rid them of their resources and then say, all right, now here's the Spellseeker.
Yep. I mean, you've got 38 creatures in the deck. And like a lot of them are just like, you've got, Mother and Giver of Runes. So like you can either defend your creatures from something or turn them into pressure machines so that they can't block with their creatures effectively. You can sort of force them into making some really disadvantageous blocks or just not block at all. And then you're getting the initiative back if they've taken it. There's just everything in the deck seems to work together, and the combo itself is so small and compact, but also good on their own.
Yes.
Like nothing in the deck is dead ever.
Yes. Now the deck isn't as aggressive as it sounds with 38 creature, because I mean that is including Wall of Omens, Coiling Oracle, stuff like that, Birds of Paradise. But what was I going to say? Wait, yeah. So it's definitely trying to be more of a control-y deck that can turn around and be a mid-range deck if you let it, or if it feels that, or if I feel like I have the advantage. If I have the opportunity between drawing some cards or slamming a turn to White Plume Adventure when my opponent hasn't played a creature, I'm going to play the White Plume Adventure because that's
a good card
on its own. So you kind of just, I think something that you said before we started recording is, instead of trying to maximize combo lines, which I think is what a lot of people think to do in combo decks, I do try to minimize it, as you said, and I will not play the combo until I have pretty much nothing else to do, or until I'm very confident that my opponent doesn't have anything.
Yeah, I think that's totally reasonable.
And I built the deck to basically try to survive until that point. Play all the good cards, and then play stuff that will make sure that I don't die before I can do what I want to do.
I do want to ask you briefly about the mana base in this, because you've made some choices that I think are pretty unorthodox.
It could be because I'm wrong.
No. I think it served you extremely well. Your mana always seems pretty perfect. I don't think I've ever seen you, unless you're getting absolutely screwed out of draws. Your mana is generally right where you want it to be. You're not playing any of the check lands.
No,
from
Innistrad. Like you mean this enters the battlefield untapped if you have a forest or a
exactly.
Like that.
Yeah.
So I don't like the idea that those come into play tapped on turn 1 and off in turn 2. If I have a fetch land, they're never coming into play tapped. But if you don't, and I have like a brush land and then a glacial fortress, then I don't know if that's right.
I like those. I feel like those are the right choices right now. They're always going to come in, and you can choose whether or not they do you damage. You're also running both City of Brass and Mana Confluence and Reflecting Pool, which are interesting choices. These are sort of rainbow lands that are.
I'm a huge proponent of those. Of specifically Mana Confluence and City of Brass in B+ color decks.
So I didn't that a lot of people didn't play those. I played them in Allurin because Allurin was a 4-color deck, by the way, unless you're like Omniscitive. I don't like the idea of 4-color decks. Is the mana base, I already feel iffy on it in 3-color. Going to 4-color just gives me anxiety. So
I'm with you.
In Allurin, I was playing 4 colors, and there I had to play the Mana Confluence and the City Brass, and then I just kept them in when I made the mana base for Bant Seeker Walk, because they tap for whatever color I need at the moment. and sometimes the damage comes back to bite you. I had to mulligan a hand against Mono Red Ryan because I looked at my hand. I said it's a one lander that normally I could keep because I've got some dorks and some card draw with the ponder or something. But my one land was City of Brass, and if I take 4 damage from City of Brass over the course of the first 4 turns, I'm not setting myself up to win against Mono Red.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So sometimes it hurts.
Sucks.
Like you saw, if you watched the first round of the Maple Cup Finals when I was playing against Eric, I probably lost 10 life over the course of the game to City of Brass.
Oh, yeah.
And it didn't end up mattering as much in that game, but it certainly didn't help.
If you're against Burn, you're dead. Like, that's
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think overall it's been better for me than it's been bad. Mana Confluence definitely a lot better because if you have a Yavimaya in play, you can tap Mana Confluence for green without dealing you damage. Yep. But because of how City of Brass works, it will always deal you damage, even if you tap for green with its forest ability.
Rishon Port, baby.
Yeah, most definitely. So I guess.
And then one more thing, Reflecting Pool is a land that I just figured it was an auto include until recently when Jake brought up. He was surprised that I was playing it. And I was surprised that he was surprised. And I think he made a good point that, sometimes it doesn't actually color fix you. It's more of like, oh, once you have your fixing, here's some extra fixing. Yeah. And, a lot of the time it is like an untapped Triumph. But I have had hands where like it's a one lander and that one lander is a Reflecting Pool, which won't tap for any mana. Or I've had hands that are like, oh, I have a forest and a plains and then a Reflecting Pool, and I can't get blue off of that. So it's definitely it's a land that I was auto including before that I'm definitely going to look at more now to see what the other options are, because I don't know what all of the options are for me for lands. And I was, when you wanted to talk about the mana base at the beginning, and I said my mana base could look like it does and have weird choices because I'm wrong. I am not nearly an expert enough at Magic as a whole to be able to devise a healthy mana. I'm just looking at my pips. I'm looking at the pips on my cards. I'm trying to figure out, what cards I'm trying to play early and late.
You saying you're not an expert at Magic is sort of disingenuous.
Yeah, says the guy who qualified for the RC last year, qualified for both OCM championships. I think
played in top 4 in the OCM championship. Or are you top 8 or top 4 in OCM?
Top 8.
Top 8. Okay. Yeah.
Lost a quick one to scam in the modern one.
Such a bad Magic player. So not good, man.
Well, okay. I didn't say I wasn't a good player. I do think I'm a good player. There's a difference between being a good player and understanding all of the mathematical complexities about building a healthy mana base. I'm still pulling up that Frank Karsten article of how many colored sources do I need to play all the time. And I'll look at it and I'll be like, well, that's not going to happen, and put it away.
Yeah, but Frank's articles, I don't think are taking into consideration singleton nature of attack.
No. I will.
Real quick, I have an article up on the MtG Dad's Patreon about building a mana base.
It's mostly about like the number of cards like the actual lands you include, which is a really nice. Like I like the calculator that is included in that. Mm-hmm. One last thing, no Wasteland.
Wasteland doesn't tap for white, blue, or green.
Sure doesn't.
Sometimes I wish I have it when I'm playing against like Paradox Academy and they find that Academy on turn 2 every game. But we got Beseiju. We have something for it.
Yeah.
The other thing is I have no ways of tutoring Wasteland, and I have no good ways of getting it back. Like I have the Witnesses, but that's usually not what I'm trying to do with my Witnesses. I'm usually trying to get some sort of value back.
Yeah.
So not having a way to tutor for it not tapping for colored mana, these are all a bunch of reasons why I have yet to include it in the deck. But I've
also almost never have a problem using all of your mana every turn, and Wasteland is like one of those cards that's really good when you're flooded because it gives you a little bit of extra utility, and you almost never have that problem. So enough about the mana base. Let's talk about the points. So in the most recent points update, you got a little boost, right?
Yes.
So Spellseeker went down to 2, and
where it was when I started playing.
Yeah, Birthing Pod went to 0. So you now have your Time Walk and your Spellseeker are only 9 points now. So you get 1 more point to play with. Plus you get to play a free Birthing Pod. You're playing Survival of the Fittest, which I like a lot. It makes a lot of sense. You got 38 creatures in your deck, and you got a 1-card combo with one of those creatures. Chances are you're going to have a creature to discard to go find it. Plus, you've got all the silver bullet creatures that you can go find off of it that are good in any number of matchups. Plus, you have really, really powerful creatures that you can go get, like the Uro, like the copy creatures, the clones, like the initiative creatures. So survival of the fittest is really just a toolbox. But I got to ask you, was there any other consideration for that 10th point?
There were, and I'd have to look at the points list to remember what all of them were. But I considered Dig Through Time, Treasure Cruise. I think I considered Dig a little more than Treasure Cruise. I considered. Let me just pull it up because I've got it on my.
Were you thinking Mystical?
In my history, no. So I'm already not playing Worldly Tutor,
right?
And I think Mystical Tutor is just a Worldly Tutor that can't get my combo because it just gets Time Walk or Ephemerate or, well, I guess it'd be Time Walk or like a Swords or something to try to save me from a creature that's going to kill me. But Mystical Tutor can't set up the combo on its own. It's just going to be sort of a value play. And one of the reasons that Time Walk is good is because, it'll always replace itself. If I Mystical Tutor for Time Walk, it's not even replacing itself. So I need to have something good on board to get value out of the Time Walk. And I just didn't think that doesn't happen often enough. Like I only play the 2 Planeswalkers in my deck, and usually my creatures aren't being aggro, so I'm not getting a lot of value off of just a kind of a naked Time Walk.
It definitely is sort of a rancid late game top deck too. If you're hellbent and kind of praying for an answer, you're like, oh, cool, a Mystical Tutor. I guess I'll have something next turn.
Right. So looking on here, Gifts Ungiven and Intuition were actually cards that I looked at pretty strongly because
I mean, you're already in white, so you can play Savine's Reclamation, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So I don't know if I would include it.
Yeah, I think you could make some really good, some sweet gift piles. You got the Cosmic Rebirth. You could play Savine's Reclamation. I said you wouldn't, but you could.
I like Savine's Rec.
So yeah, I thought about it, and I didn't think about it long enough to figure out exactly which piles I would be getting most of the time, but I did think that with very minor adjustments, if any, there could be ways to set up getting the combo guaranteed with a Gifts or an Intuition. But in the end, I decided on Survival of the Fittest because in a deck where I need to draw one specific card, having another tutor in my deck that can find that card just seems like the best thing to do. Because with a card like Dig Through Time, I'm looking at 7 cards out of 100. And sure, I'm going to find 2 good cards out of those 7, but am I going to find Spellseeker? Most of the time, probably not.
Right. You want to win the game. You're looking to put it away.
Yeah, so there was a game against Jake in I don't remember if it was our For Fun game or if it was during the tournament. But at the finals of the Maple Cup on Sunday, I drew Survival of the Fittest. And then I just played it, discarded a creature, got a Spellseeker, and the game was over.
Yeah, that finals. So we didn't actually have that one on camera. So that Paradox Academy deck is, it's wild. You want to talk a little bit about that finals? About those games, how they went?
Oh, I wish I could remember better how the first one went. So the first one, I played out some. I think I played out. No, that wasn't the Aether Vial game. I played out some Dorks. So I was doing some ramp stuff. He played out when I had a Git probe, so I sort of knew some of what he was going to do. And then I was just playing Dorks. I knew he had a Time Twister in hand, and he played, I think, a turn 1 map to set up Tolarian Academy to, do a Time Twister turn and start doing what the deck's trying to do. So I was setting up. I knew he had the Time Twister. I had 3 mana up, and I had a Malcolm in hand. And I didn't think that he was going to go for it as early as he did, because after the Git probe, I think that the artifacts that he drew were like a Mox Diamond or some other 0 mana artifact. I think he drew like a Diamond and Opal and a Candelabra. And I was like, oh, I thought he was going to have 5 mana, and he's got like 10, or something like that. And so he did the Time Twister, and in response, I did what was probably a mistake, and I flashed in Malcolm because I was thinking, I've got 2 cards in hand. I'll flash in the Malcolm, and then it's like drawing 6 cards instead of drawing 5 cards, whatever, right? And then one of the cards that I drew into from the 7 was Hull Breacher, and I thought, man, I really wish I had that.
Oh man,
really wish I
that's
had
such a
mana
feel
back.
So
bad,
cool,
dude.
man.
Oh, God.
Flashing this Hull Breacher next time he tries to do something, because then he played a Memory Jar, and I was like, man, this would be real good right now. But anyway, he played a whole bunch of stuff. Didn't end up having quite enough to win. So I discarded the Memory Jar hand, which included Time Walk or whatever. Got back my hand that had the Hull Breacher and everything. It didn't have a Spellseeker. I had the requisite mana to do a Spellseeker thing, but it didn't have Spellseeker. So I think I just played it out. Yeah, so I had a Skyclave Apparition and the Hull Breacher. So I played a Skyclave Apparition. I took Retrofitter Foundry because he had, after the Memory Jar and the Time Twister and everything, he had played the Turtle, the Kappa Cannoneer. Yeah. And he had Academy with a Candelabra going and a Retrofitter Foundry. And
That's
I was like,
so much mana.
I was like, oh, so you just get to make like 6 tokens or whatever with this Retrofitter Foundry, each one of which is going to beef up this Kappa Cannoneer, and I'm not going to be able to block it. So I kind of evaluated his position. He had like 2 cards in hand, trying to decide what to Skyclave. I went with the Retrofitter Foundry because then, if you draw an artifact and you can act, or you get the trigger on the Kappa Cannoneer, that's fine. I'll take like 6 or whatever. At least I'm not taking like 15. So I hit the Retrofitter. He didn't draw anything off the top that was significant. I flashed in my Hull Breacher, and then I think relatively soon after that, I was able to do something that ended up taking over the game. It was probably a tutor for a Spellseeker or something. And then game 2, I think, was an Aether Vial game, and I think I drew the Hull Breacher naturally again. I didn't get him on like a draw 7, but I think I got him on like a draw 1.
That has the splash benefit of preventing all of the future draw 7s.
Yeah,
Yes,
he now immediately needs an answer that he cannot draw into, really. Like, he has to just naturally draw.
Right, and that's one of the strengths of Hull Breacher, and that's why it's in the deck. Like, it's really bad against something like Gruul Aggro, but it's really good against anything blue.
Listen, man, I play Orcish Bowmasters in decks against anybody. It doesn't matter. You're drawing extra cards, I don't care. Bowmasters.
Yeah, so there was an interesting point in the game, and I think it was that second game, where I had Malcolm, and I attacked with Malcolm, and when Malcolm hits a player, you draw a discard. It's not a May. You put a chorus counter on it, and you draw a discard. So I attacked with Malcolm, no blocks. Before damage, he flashed in an Orcish Bowmaster and put the ETB on my Hull Breacher. And so if Malcolm hits, I'll draw a discard. The Bowmasters will trigger and finish off the Hull Breacher. So it forced me to path the Orcish Bowmasters before the Malcolm trigger went off, which is not what I wanted to use the path for, because I think that might have been the first game still. Yeah, that was probably still the first game, because I think he had Kappa Cannoneer that I wanted to path instead, because I had enough mana to pay for the ward. But the Hull Breacher was more important to the game at that point. And I'm trying to remember what happened in the second game. I think that might have been the game where I Beseju'd a Tellurian Academy in response to trying to untap it with Candelabra.
That's nice.
But,
Nice.
Yeah.
Love hitting the non-basic lands with it.
Oh, yeah. But Jake could probably tell you a little better than I could. Those matches were, I think, they were good games, but I think they were the least interesting of my 3 matches.
Oh,
Like, they
really?
weren't
I
as
mean,
exciting
they sound super interesting. I enjoy playing against that Paradox Academy deck a lot.
Oh, yeah, it's fun every time. I guess I shouldn't say it wasn't exciting. I think they were over quicker.
Sure.
One of the exciting things to me was that first game against Eric that just went on forever and was super back and forth. That game was awesome. and then the game against Jeremiah where he turned to reanimated the Tyrannax Rex, and then before I was gonna die, he corded for the.
We
Fatal
found the
Defense.
line.
Like finding your way out of it always feels good. You remember
Yeah,
that.
if he had drawn green mana at any point that game, he would have got me, but he didn't, and it worked out. So if I remember anything more about the games with Jake, I'll definitely let you know. But
Sweet.
they weren't blowouts by any means.
Right on.
I think you definitely had to fight for it.
We are just about out of time here. Luke, do you have anything else that you want to say about Seeker Walk specifically?
I like the deck. I think it's a very clean combo, and I think it's competitive in the metagame because you can stay alive long enough to get your combo off. I'm trying to think of what my good matchups and bad matchups are. I definitely don't like playing against aggro. Sometimes against like lower to the ground strategies like a mono red, I can do okay because I can like play an Uro and gain incidental life, or ephemerate a Knight of Autumn and gain 8 life, something like that. But I still lose plenty often to mono red Ryan. I lose to Ryan Brown and his Naya deck a lot. I lose sometimes to the Gruul aggro decks. I've lost a combo, so I've lost everything and I beat everything. That's one of the reasons I like the deck. I don't think it has any serious weak spots, except when your opponent casts Black Lotus on turn 1. I don't think I've won any games where they did that. But
that's more of a testament to the power of Black Lotus.
Spencer.
Yeah. So I really like the deck. If anybody has any questions for the deck, I'm always happy to talk about it and talk about my choices in the deck. I've adjusted the deck card by card over time. The joke is that I'm always bringing a spicy new brew, and the spiciness is I just change 2 cards in Seeker Walk, and because I'm trying them out.
I love that though. Like you're always tuning it. There's always like considerations of what goes in, what comes out. You're never stuck in one deck, you know?
Right. Yeah. Malcolm is the recent card, the most recent card that was added that I probably like the most. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but some of the reasons it's in the deck is it draws cards, because it turns out when you draw more cards, you draw Spellseeker more often.
Yep.
And you draw answers to things that you're dying from. It has flash, and it has flying, and it has evasion, so it's really good at taking the initiative back if you need to do that. It also, if you do happen to hit with it 4 times and you get to like draw, discard an Undermountain Adventure and cast it for free, great bonus. Doesn't happen very often, but
it doesn't have to do that to be good.
I live for the value. I live for the dream of having that kind of value.
Oh, that's funny.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Luke, for coming on and talking to us about Seeker Walk. We love having you on here. Yeah. And I think that's about it. So if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. Make sure you turn notifications on so that we get to annoy you every time we upload a video. And just want to remind you that we're proud of you.
We're proud of you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.